Did you know the king of rock and roll accidentally created novelty songs? Ever wonder which Elvis tracks became hits for totally unexpected reasons? Number 5. Hound Dog, 1956. Have you ever realized Hound Dog wasn't even written for Elvis? Did you know it was originally sung by a woman about an actual man? When Elvis Presley strutted onto the stage of the Milton Berle Show in June 1956 and gyrated his hips to Hound Dog, America collectively gasped. Parents were outraged. Teenagers were enthralled. The performance was so controversial that when he appeared on the Steve Allen Show shortly after, they dressed him in a tuxedo and made him sing the song to an actual basset hound as a way to neutralize his sexuality. But here's the funny part. Hound Dog wasn't even Elvis's song to begin with. It was written by a legendary songwriting duo, Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller, for Big Mama Thornton, a powerful blues singer who recorded it in 1952. Her version was explicitly about a worthless man, a real hound dog, who kept snooping round her door. It was adult, direct, and made perfect sense. When Elvis got his hands on the song, he transformed it completely. The lyrics suddenly made less literal sense. Elvis wasn't exactly the type of guy who would be rejected by women, which made lines like, "You ain't never caught a rabbit," and "You ain't no friend of mine," seem downright absurd. The new arrangement, the way he performed it, and the disconnection from its original meaning turned it into something that bordered on novelty. Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's infamous manager, recognized the controversy as a marketing goldmine. The more parents hated it, the more records teenagers would buy. The song spent 11 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard charts, becoming one of Elvis's signature songs despite, or perhaps because, of its transformation from blues lament to hip-shaking spectacle. Leiber, one of the original songwriters, later said, "I had no idea what that rabbit business was all about. The song is not about a dog." Yet Elvis's version, with its nonsensical relationship to the lyrics, became the definitive recording of the song. Music historians now point to Hound Dog as a perfect example of the culture clash happening in mid-50s America. The establishment versus youth culture, traditional values versus rock and roll, rebellion. What began as a straightforward blues song became in Elvis's hands a kind of accidental novelty hit that derived much of its power from the disconnect between performer and material, and the moral panic it inspired. Number 4. Suspicious Minds, 1969. Did you know Elvis's iconic comeback hit almost never happened? Would you believe the Nokur nearly pulled it because of a greedy producer? When Elvis entered American Sound Studio in January 1969, his career was at a crossroads. His movie years had produced diminishing returns, and the 1968 comeback special had reminded everyone of his raw talent. He needed a hit, and he needed it badly. Suspicious Minds became that hit, Elvis's last number 1 single in his lifetime, but its journey to the top of the charts was anything but smooth. The song, written by Mark James, who had recorded his own version to little success, became an unexpected fan favorite largely because of a production quirk that nearly derailed the entire project. Producer Felton Jarvis made a controversial decision during the final mix of the song. As the song was drawing to its natural conclusion, Jarvis brought the music back up again, creating what became known as the fake fade. This strange production choice made the song loop back into itself, extending for another minute with Elvis repeating the chorus over and over. Mark James, the joker, was furious. He thought Jarvis had ruined his composition. The decision was made even more suspicious when it came out that Jarvis and Elvis's notorious manager, Colonel Parker, had a financial motivation. By extending the song's length, they could claim a producer's credit and a portion of the royalties. James nearly pulled the song entirely. Elvis, caught in the middle, reportedly loved the fake fade. He felt it captured the cyclical nature of a suspicious relationship where the same arguments play out again and again. The result was unexpected. The unusual ending became one of the song's most memorable features. Fans would wait for that fake fade at concerts, ready to keep singing along when the song seemed to be ending. What had begun as a money grab transformed the emotional impact of the song, turning a straightforward ballad about jealousy into something more unusual and distinctive. American audiences, already primed for unusual production techniques from the Beatles and other experimental acts of the late 60s, embraced the quirk. Dance clubs particularly loved the extended ending, as it gave dancers more time on the floor without A-Day having to start a new record. In later years, the fake fade would become a recognizable production technique used deliberately in songs like Hey Jude by the Beatles and Freebird by Lynyrd Skynyrd. But when Suspicious Minds hit pound 1 in November 1969, the technique was still novel enough to make listeners do a double take, creating an accidental novelty element in what would become one of Elvis's most beloved songs. Number 3. Are You Lonesome Tonight? 1960. Ever heard Elvis break into uncontrollable laughter in the middle of a romantic ballad? Did you know his biggest laughing fit became more popular than the original recording? Are You Lonesome Tonight? Was already an unusual choice for Elvis. The song dated back to 1926, written by Lou Hanman and Roy Turk, and had been recorded by numerous artists before Elvis. Colonel Parker specifically requested Elvis record it as a favor to his wife, who loved the song. What no one expected was that this rather formal theatrical ballad, complete with a spoken word section based on Jacques' monologue from Shakespeare's As You Like It, would yield one of the most humanizing moments in Elvis's career. The standard recorded version of Are You Lonesome Tonight was released in November 1960 and quickly shot to pound 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. But it's the laughing version, recorded live in Las Vegas in 1969, that transformed the song from romantic standard to accidental novelty hit. During that fateful Vegas performance, Elvis reached the spoken bridge of the song, the Shakespeare-inspired section that begins, "Do you gaze at your doorstep and picture me there?" Something triggered his sense of humor. Some reports claim he spotted a bald man in the audience who reminded him of comedian Norm Crosby. Others suggest backup singer Cissy Houston, Whitney Houston's mother, was making faces at him. Whatever the catalyst, Elvis completely lost his composure. He began to giggle, then laugh openly, then completely broke down as he tried and failed repeatedly to continue the song. The band valiantly played on as Elvis gasped out fragments of lyrics between fits of laughter, occasionally managing coherent asides like, "I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry the image of you has got me," before dissolving into laughter again. What could have been an embarrassing moment instead coquette Elvis's humanity and sense of humor. Bootleg recordings of the laughing version circulated among fans for years before RCA officially released it in 1985 as part of the Elvis, a Golden Celebration box set. To everyone's surprise, radio stations began playing this version, and it developed a cult following that in some markets eclipsed the popularity of the original. The laughing version transformed a rather staid, formal ballad into something unexpectedly funny and relatable. Fans who may have found the original too sentimental embraced this glimpse of the real person behind the carefully constructed image. The contrast between the song's serious tone and Elvis's uncontrollable mirth created an irresistible tension that turned a potential on-stage disaster into an enduring fan favorite. Music critics later pointed to this moment as evidence of Elvis's growing dissatisfaction with his repertoire. Forced to sing the same songs night after night in Vegas, perhaps laughter was his only release. Whatever the deeper meaning, the laughing version of Are You Lonesome Tonight stands as perhaps the most organic and unintentional novelty hit in Elvis's catalog. Number 2. Blue Christmas, 1957. Can a Christmas song be accidentally risky? How did backup singers turn Elvis's holiday classic into something unexpectedly comical? When Elvis entered the studio to record Blue Christmas in September 1957 for his Christmas album, no one involved anticipated that the session would produce not just a holiday standard, but also one of the most distinctive and occasionally parodied vocal arrangements in Christmas music history. The song itself, written by Billy Hayes and Jay Johnson in 1948, had previously been a country hit for Ernest Tubb. Elvis's version might have remained just another track on his Christmas album, if not for the distinctive backing vocals provided by the Jordanaires, particularly the woo-woo-woo doo-wop styling of soprano Millie Kirkham. Kirkham, who was pregnant at the time of the recording session, was specifically requested by Elvis despite her condition. When she arrived at the studio, Elvis told her about Blue Christmas, describing it as the saddest song. Kirkham, trying to lighten the mood, jokingly performed an exaggerated soprano, woo-woo-woo, in the background. To her surprise, Elvis loved it and insisted she keep it in the final recording. The result was a backing vocal arrangement so distinctive that it immediately set the recording apart from any other version of the song. What had been intended as a straightforward, melancholy holiday tune took on a slightly campy quality that balanced the genuine sadness in Elvis's vocal performance. Initially, RCA was hesitant to release Blue Christmas, as a single concerned that the arrangement was too unusual and that radio stations wouldn't embrace a melancholy Christmas song. The track remained album only until 1964, when it was finally released as a single in the UK. By that time, the song's unusual vocal arrangement had become beloved by fans, who found the woo-woo backing as essential to Christmas as tinsel on a tree. Over the years, the distinctive vocal arrangement has been both celebrated and parodied. From Saturday Night Live sketches to countless impressions by amateur Elvis impersonators, the woo-woo backing vocals have become almost more famous than the song itself. Even country stars like Martina McBride, who recorded a posthumous duet version with Elvis in 2013, made sure to preserve the iconic backing vocal arrangement. What began as a spontaneous studio joke transformed Blue Christmas from a standard holiday lament into something memorably quirky. The contrast between Elvis's earnest, blues-tinged delivery and the almost comical backing vocals created a tension that has kept the song fresh for more than 6 decades. Today, Blue Christmas stands as both a genuine Christmas standard and an accidental novelty hit, whose distinctive vocal arrangement has become an indelible part of holiday music tradition. Number 1. A Little Less Conversation, 2002. Can a Dead Man Have a Club Hit? How did a forgotten Elvis movie song become a global dance sensation 35 years after it was recorded? In 1968, Elvis recorded "A Little Less Conversation" for the film Live a Little, Love a Little. The upbeat song, written by Mac Davis and Billy Strange, featured lyrics that were unusually direct for the era, with Elvis demanding a little less conversation, a little more action from his love interest. Despite its catchy melody and vibrant performance, the song was released as a B-side and largely forgotten, reaching only £69 on the Billboard charts before disappearing into the vast Elvis catalog. For over 3 decades, "A Little Less Conversation" remained a deep cut known mainly to Elvis completists. Then came an unexpected resurrection that nobody, not even the most optimistic executives at Elvis Presley Enterprises, could have predicted. In 2002, Dutch DJ and producer Junkie the 40th, Tom Hokenborg, was given permission to remix the song for a Nike World Cup commercial. His version, later released under the name Elvis V's SJXL, drastically reimagined the original, adding a thumping electronic beat, emphasizing the bass line, and looping Elvis's vocals to create something that sounded remarkably contemporary. The remixed version exploded in popularity. It rocketed to #1 in over 20 countries, including the UK, where it gave Elvis his first #1 single in 25 years, and his first since his death in 1977. In the United States, while it didn't reach the top of the pop charts, it dominated dance radio and clubs. What made the success of "A Little Less Conversation" particularly remarkable was how it introduced Elvis to an entirely new generation. Young clubgoers, who might have dismissed Presley as their parents' music, were suddenly dancing to his voice in trending nightclubs. The remix transformed Elvis from historical icon to contemporary dance artist. The song's resurgence led to a wave of Elvis rediscovery, with other remixes following, though none as successful, and a renewed interest in his original recordings. It also paved the way for similar projects with other legacy artists, creating an entire subgenre of remixed classics aimed at introducing legendary performers to younger audiences. The irony wasn't lost on music critics that a song originally about cutting through talk to get to action had spent 34 years in relative obscurity before finally taking its own advice. What had begun as a forgettable movie soundtrack song had transformed, decades after its singer's death, into one of the most successful novelty dance hits of the early 2000s. Even more surprisingly, the success of the remix led to a reappraisal of the original version, which began appearing on Elvis compilation albums and garnering radio play it never received during its initial release. A song that failed to find its audience in 1968 had, through an unexpected remix decades later, finally fulfilled its potential and secured its place in Elvis's legacy. Are these songs part of Elvis's intended artistic vision, or did circumstance transform them into something their creator never imagined? Does the accidental nature of their novelty appeal somehow make them more authentic than deliberately quirky songs?